On today's Pedone, my take, we're live in the Big Play studio. Rapid fire Pedone, my take today. We're going to get right into our plays of the week because there's a ton of news going on around the world of sports. And best believe we're going to get into all of that and so much more. NFL preseason is here. Baker's not playing. We got Wyatt Teller updates, Denzel Ward updates on their contract situation. We'll talk some tribe, get through all the Cleveland headlines, and so much more. First, the Big Play store. Guys, we're going to be at First Energy Stadium at the Muni Lot tailgating before you know it, so you need to swing by the Big Play store. That's store.bigplay.com, and while you're there, use promo code Pedone. That's my last name, Pedone, to take 15% off your entire purchase. They got the best Cleveland gear in the game, so go check them out at store.bigplay.com. Without further ado, let's do it. All righty, welcome on into Pedone, my take. My name is Nick Pedone, hanging out with you guys tonight. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope you all are having a good one. We're going to get right into it with our plays of the week. But first, the Cleveland Browns made a little bit of news today, and that is by at the end of Kevin Stefanski's press conference, he gave us a little nugget, and that's something that Kevin Stefanski typically does not do. When he said that Baker Mayfield will not be playing for the Cleveland Browns this Saturday in Jacksonville. Kind of shocking. I was a little bit surprised that he came out this early in the week with that news, but I think I like it. I think I like the fact that Baker won't even see the field. I like that Kevin Stefanski got out in front of this. We do have a poll up on Twitter tonight at Pedone My Take. Feel free to go weigh in. And that is, if you were Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, would you play the starters in any of the NFL preseason games? I want to hear from you guys wherever you're listening to this. Drop a comment. As always, feel free to tweet the show at Pedone My Take. You could also tweet me at Nick Pedone 12. We'll update that Twitter poll throughout the show. But I got to go out on a limb, and I'm not sure what the preliminary results of this Twitter poll are since it's been out for a little bit. I don't think I would play any of the Brown starters if I was Kevin Stefanski, and that's just because this team has bigger aspirations than the preseason. I know we get so excited, and I'm looking forward to week one, and I know you guys are as well. I think this team has bigger aspirations than even the Kansas City Chiefs in week one. And I know that's a big game. There's a lot on the line. It's the AFC divisional round rematch. It's a possible potential AFC championship game preview. But this team wants to do big things, right? It's you hate to say Super Bowl or bust, but what does every NFL team do in the offseason? They look to get better and they look to improve on where they left off the year prior. So if I'm the Cleveland Browns, the next step is to make that AFC championship game and to give yourself a chance at the Super Bowl, because if you're truly going to get better both as a team and an organization, that's the next steps that the Cleveland Browns need to make. So I think this season means so much more than a preseason game in Jacksonville, a preseason game against the Giants, and then a preseason game at the end of season at the Atlanta Falcons. But I want to hear from you guys on Twitter at Pedone My Take. Go vote on that poll. We'll update it throughout tonight's show. While you're on the stream, drop a comment. Do you want to see the Cleveland Browns starters this preseason? I truthfully say I don't want to see any of them, but go vote on that poll on Twitter at Pedone My Take. Let's get right into it with our plays of the week. We're going to be talking more football. All righty, plays of the week on Pedone My Take. If you're new to the show, here's how this segment rolls. We have 3 plays each week: small play, a medium play, and a big play, or storylines that missed the mark, hit the mark, and fell somewhere in between. As always, we start off with our small play this week is the AFC North. What is going on in the AFC North? We know that this is going to be one of the toughest divisions in football. It's right up there with the NFC West, where you have the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks. The AFC North is the toughest division in the AFC. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. But some of the storylines that are coming out of this training camp have me absolutely downright scratching my head. Let's start in Baltimore with the Ravens, where Lamar Jackson is not commenting on the status of his vaccine. So if you don't have a comment, let's just put two and two together, right? Like, we're not dummies. Sports fans, I believe, are pretty intelligent people at their core, at least the most of them. And I feel like we know if Lamar Jackson doesn't want to comment on his vaccination status and that he's saying it's personal, it probably means that he's not vaccinated, especially because he's either had COVID twice or that he's been in this close contact, weird situation with the NFL where he can't practice due to the COVID-19 virus. So the AFC North is abysmal because the Ravens, who are supposedly the Vegas odds-on favorite to win this division, they can't even get their quarterback on the field because they're dealing with COVID violations. Also in Baltimore, Rashad Bateman, first round pick, receiver, hurt, out several weeks. We know that that's not the end of the world in football. And you never want to see injuries happen. When they do happen, you're always glad when it's days and not weeks. And then you're always glad when it's weeks and not months, because that means the player could get back sooner. That means it's not as severe, so they could get back to the high level of play that they were currently at before the injury. But with Rashad Bateman, it's specifically tough because not only have you had reps with your starting quarterback because he's been out in the COVID protocol, but then also, if the Ravens want to have any success from the rookie this year, you got to have your rookies on the training camp field. We've seen it with JOK with the Browns. He's the third string linebacker going into Jacksonville on the depth chart solely because he missed those 2 weeks in COVID protocols. Rashad Bateman, same thing. It's imperative for these rookies to be on the field. So the Ravens, small play of the week. Let's look over to Cincinnati. Things not looking a whole lot better there. Joe Burrow admitted this week in Cincinnati that he's having a little bit of mental issues, mental struggles coming back from that knee injury. And I feel like we're so quick to call the knee injury just an ACL tear, but we forget that it was an ACL, an MCL, and structural damage. So there's a whole lot going on with Joe Burrow physically, and then mentally you throw in the whole offensive line thing and not trusting those guys. And reports out of Cincinnati say that Jackson Carman, who is going to be the right guard or left guard, came to camp out of shape, and that might not be the case. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm licking my chops a little bit because Joe Burrow is seeing ghosts in Cincinnati. And you know, I know we pull for him. He's an Ohio dude. He went to Ohio State. I know he won the national championship with LSU, but he'll forever be a Buckeye because he went there. So Bengals ain't looking that better. And then you look at the Steelers and the stuff that the Steelers are going through. I heard today that their entire starting offensive line in Pittsburgh hasn't even practiced together yet. So how are these dudes going to play in a division that some delusional Steelers fans think they have a chance to win, and you still can't get your entire unit on the field? Bewildering stuff, not to mention now during this preseason for the Steelers, we're going to get to see, as Browns fans, and I talked about this a little bit last week before the Hall of Fame game, the Big Ben replacement games. Is it Mason Rudolph as the 2? Is it Dwayne Haskins as the 2? Who's going to be the 3? If Ben goes down, is it going to be Mason or is it going to be Haskins? I'm excited to see how that shakes out as a Browns fan. And truthfully, I don't think the Steelers are going to be that good. This is a hot take on a Wednesday, August 11th, in the middle of summer as we're waiting for football. Would it really surprise anyone out there if the Steelers finished last in the AFC North, from reigning champions to last place in the division? Tweet me at Nick Pedone 12 or just drop a comment, because if Joe Burrow could get rid of the yips that he has now and he's a little bit scared, and if the Browns and the Ravens are as good as advertised and Big Ben looks old and that O-line ain't what it was, and the defense, they lost some guys, and TJ Watt is holding out, which we'll get to in a second, I think the Steelers could finish dead last. If you feel differently, tweet me at Nick Pedone 12. Tweet the show, Pedone My Take. As always, you could drop a comment live. Staying out there in Steelerville, huh? TJ Watt not practicing. Joe Hayden needs a new contract. Devin Bush is tweeting a million things. The AFC North is a very weird place right now. And for a division that we're expecting to be the best in football, I like where the Cleveland Browns are at right now. They're not the Vegas favorites. That's still Baltimore. But the Browns are quietly just in the shadows getting better. We're hearing good things about Greg Newsome. We're hearing good things about Mac Wilson. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been a complete standout. Just keep doing what you're doing, Cleveland Browns. Don't make any big news. Just hang in the shadows. Let the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers dominate the news cycle and sneak up on teams the same way that they did last year during Kevin Stefanski's rookie season as head coach. I think we're in for a spectacular fall. We got a lot of Browns to talk, throughout this season. Let's get to another small play of the week, just because we have a series of comments here from Ed in Columbus. I got to make fun of myself a little bit on the show, because if you guys missed it on Twitter this week, you got to give me a follow at Nick Pedone 12, because I didn't realize that women's shirts had the buttons on the left-hand side. So Ed in Columbus has taken another friendly little jab on me here in the comments. Buttons are on the left side, supposedly, and we changed outdated sports names, so why not clothing manufacturing? Ed, I agree. I put that tweet out there when I was struggling to put my shirt on the other day, because I was like, I've never had a left-handed shirt. Like, you hear about left-handed golf clubs, you hear about left-handed scissors. I'm like, this literally might be a left-handed shirt. And it's Tommy Hilfiger. I knew the whole European thing, being the shirt, the buttons are on the other side. I'm like, this is literally an American brand. This shirt, the buttons should be on the right side. And then when they weren't, I was puzzled. So that's why I tweeted that I've never had a shirt like that. And then all the comments and Twitter folks rolled in saying that it was actually a woman's shirt. But you know what? It was still a comfortable shirt. I didn't tweet a picture of it. The people that I work with that follow me on Twitter definitely got a good laugh. And some of the people that I know that I Snapchatted and texted throughout the day. But that was a good shirt. I might still wear it. We move on to our medium play of the week. Appreciate those comments, Ed. And that is Jarrett Allen is our medium play this week, because he had an interesting quote. And don't get me wrong when I say this. I'm thrilled that the Cavs were able to bring Jarrett Allen back. 5-year deal worth $100 million. I initially thought that it was going to be a 4-year deal worth $100 million. So to see that it's stretched over 5, we got Jarrett Allen locked up in his prime. He's only 23 years old. He's a certain part of that Cavs young core. I'm excited to see what he could bring to the floor. But this quote about his contract extension and saying how happy he was in Cleveland really just rubbed me a weird way. And I'm glad that he's happy here. I'm glad that he feels wanted here. Let me just read this quote from Jarrett Allen via Cleveland.com's Chris Fedor. He said, if the Cavs can accelerate the process, maybe 2-3 years down the line, we're fighting for that 5th seed or something. If that's our goal as an organization in 2 to 3 years down the line on an accelerated fast track to be a 5th seed or something, I feel like the Cavaliers got bigger fish to fry than Colin Sexton trade rumors or extensions and Kevin Love quitting on Team USA. I think we need to gun a little bit higher, and I appreciate Jarrett Allen at least throwing playoffs out there. That, hey, hopefully this should be a possibility and probability for this organization that hasn't been there without LeBron in my lifetime. But that was just such a weird quote that he just obscurely threw out there that in 2 or 3 years we'll be fighting for that 5th seed. So you know how the Cavs like catchphrase is hashtag be the fight? I threw out there hashtag be the 5th seed. Super just interesting, bizarre quote from Jarrett Allen. And I think the Cavs will be better than that in 3 or 4 years down the road. Rumors, reports, whatever you want to call them, from independents this last week said, seems like Colin is here to stay. That's a good thing. If you're a Cavs fan like me, there's no reason to trade your best player. And Colin Sexton is this team's best player, unless you're getting a really good superstar caliber guy back. The Cavs weren't going to get that in a Colin Sexton deal. I like that they kept him in town. Let's just try to build something up and win here. I know that, it's not a short-term thing. They're thinking for the big picture. They're stacking these 7-footers with Allen and Mobley. You got a Coro just tearing it up in the NBA Summer League with some crazy dunks. He's probably too good to be in the Summer League, guys. And then you have the young backcourt in Sexton. You got a decent bench with guys like Larry Nance, Jetty Osman, Ricky Rubio now. See what you could do. I think it's got to be NBA play-in tournament for these Cavs this year, despite Jared Allen saying on some sort of hypothetical fast track in 2 or 3 years, the Cavs could be gunning for the 5th seed. I surely hope it is Jared Allen, because when I watched basketball this winter, it was depressing. I hated turning it on because I knew I wasn't going to like what I saw. We got to just get through it, though. Basketball is not going to start for a while. Let's switch on to what's actually going on, and that's the Cleveland Indians. You guys see I got my brand new Guardians shirt on in the Pedone My Take studio today. It's rare, and this is coming from me, folks. It is extremely rare that I will ever put the Indians, even Chris Antonetti and some of the good things that he's done, as the big play of the week on Pedone My Take. But that's exactly what I'm doing in this segment. The Indians are my big play of the week, and I know what you guys are thinking. You're probably like, Nick, the Indians literally fell below 500 yesterday. They're literally still without Shane Bieber, with Aaron Savali. Those guys could get shut down for the year. They're not winning anything. Terry Francota's done. Listen here, folks. I really like what Ahmed Rosario is doing. And I know it was the popular thing to throw a fit when Francisco Lindor got traded, and it hurt because it was the beginning of the teardown. It was the beginning of the inevitable when Francisco Lindor left town, and then it all kind of hurt all over again when he said what he said about the media here, and that he didn't like being called Frankie, and then it hurt all over again when he signed that big contract. It was like we were never going to be able to keep the guy. And then it hurt again because the Indians aren't that good and they were sellers at the deadline. It was like, oh my God, I hate this team. Like, why do I like this team? And then Ahmed Rosario becomes one of the bright spots of the season. The guy has been on an absolute tear. I truly do believe that he could be the bright spot of this Francisco Lindor trade. He's under club control until 2024. If I'm the Indians, I'm trying to get an extension done with this guy this offseason. I'm making sure that he's in the new Guardians uniform long term. If we want to sell some of these Guardians gear, some of this merch, if we want people to be in the stands, this newly renovated stadium that Mike DeWine and everybody else is putting in money for, let's get some players in here. Ahmed Rosario on the season is hitting 279. Definitely one of the best well-rounded bats on this team. But he's leading the American League throughout these first 11 days of August in batting average. This dude's hitting 412. 412 in the major leagues. I get that it's 11 days in and that we're only in August, and it's a small sample size being just this year, but this guy makes this Francisco Lindor trade seem a lot better, especially because of the struggles that Lindor's had this year, because of that contract you're tied to him for 10 more years. Meanwhile, we got a dude right here who's performing better right now. He doesn't have the same power that Lindor has, and he maybe never will. He's a much smaller frame, probably doesn't have the glove either. But if you could give me a 279 batting average, comparatively to some of the other bats that I've seen in this dang lineup, I'm going to like you on my baseball team. And that's exactly where I'm at with Ahmed Rosario. So the Indians and Ahmed Rosario earn my big play of the week on tonight's Pedone My Take. I never thought this season, especially after they fell below 500, that I would be giving an Indians player or the organization this accolade. But shout out to Ahmed Rosario, because the Indians might have a promising young piece. It pains me to say, and we talked about it last week, so I'm not going to beat the dead horse here tonight, is just how unlucky the Tribe got this year. I truly believe they'd still be in some sort of a mix. I don't know if they'd be in the division race with the White Sox. I think everybody knew that the White Sox were going to win this division. But boy, it's just, you wish you had Bieber, you wish you had Savell, you wish you had Plesac when he was hurt there. Crazy stuff. Ed in Columbus drops another comment. Zimmer might be a keeper. Rosario is on fire. Guardians can compete next year when pitching is healthy. Ed, nail on head, my friend. I couldn't have said it better myself. I really do think the Guardians will be able to compete for something. Now, I don't know if it's the division because the White Sox are still there and they're only retooling and getting better and making trades to improve themselves. But Bradley Zimmer looks good too. I worry about his health just because if we know anything about history, it's that it tends to repeat itself. But I would love to keep Bradley Zimmer in a Tribe uniform long term. Those were our plays of the week presented by bigplay.com. Let's update that Twitter poll. Alrighty, we have the poll out on Twitter at Pedone My Take. There's still time to vote. There's over 100 votes in. And that Twitter poll reads, if you were Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, would you play any of the Cleveland Browns starters this preseason? That's not just week one in Jacksonville, folks. That is the entire preseason. 58% of voters are saying yes, play them a little bit. 42% of voters are saying no, don't play them. I fall in that 42%, guys. I casted my vote already on Twitter. I'm saying no. Don't play these starters, man. We got too much to look forward to. I would hate, and it would be the most Cleveland thing ever. And we always talk about it when, bad stuff happens to Cleveland. Like, oh, that was so Cleveland. Oh, that didn't need to happen. It's just so unlucky. The Browns don't need that. If this is truly the year, we don't need Baker Mayfield going out there and stumbling out of the tunnel in the preseason and hurting himself. We don't need newly paid man Nick Chubb to go out there and hurt himself. The Browns also got some contracts to lock up. How about Denzel Ward? I feel like this hasn't gotten talked enough about. The dude has missed like 4 practices with soreness. Wink, wink. Soreness. I think he's probably fingers are a little sore from practicing his signature on the dotted line of the contract that Denzel Ward will be receiving pretty soon. I do believe that Denzel Ward is going to be next in line for that contract extension from the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be glorious. I know it takes a good quarterback to win. I want it to extend Baker now. I would have extended him weeks ago. But Denzel Ward, having him out there as your sheer lockdown number 1 corner for years to come, that alleviates a lot of problems. And if it's Grady, if it's Greg Newsome, if it's Troy Hill as the corner 2, you could figure that out from here, but once you lock down Denzel Ward, then you got some real pieces locked down. You got Myles Garrett, you got Clowney on the lease right now. You got guys like Anthony Walker, Malcolm Smith on the lease right now, but having Garrett, Ward, Newsome, those 3 pieces in particular, locked down long term. I'd even throw in, John Johnson III in there, as well as Troy Hill, some of the big, free agent guys. The Browns D is going to be all right long term. I love it. Let's get Denzel Ward locked up. Then next stop, you got Wyatt Teller, you got Baker Mayfield. Kelly on Twitter drops a comment, says, change the names on the jerseys of Browns defensive players to COVID. Sure to sack Lamar then. Kelly, that's a good question. Lamar definitely doesn't seem like he's going to get this vaccine. So who knows what's going to go on with the Baltimore Ravens, but that division is left right a crack for the Cleveland Browns. Speaking of COVID and the Browns, I surely wouldn't want this team going to Florida this Saturday, but here's the hoping they could just get into that Jacksonville stadium, play this game, stay healthy, and hit the road. Kevin Stefanski will probably announce tomorrow not a lot of starters are going to play in this game. Just get out of there alive. You don't want to see any injuries even to the backups because, in football, as much as any sport, the backups sometimes mean just as much as the starters. So just go to Tampa, stay healthy, or not Tampa, go to Jacksonville, stay healthy, on the field, off the field, don't get COVID. Get the hell back here in Cleveland. Let's keep this camp rolling. Let's win some games in September when it really matters. What a fun half hour hanging out with you guys. We're going to wrap up Pedone My Take on the quicker side today. I told you guys it was going to be a bit of a rapid fire show. Huge thanks to everybody who tuned in. Huge thanks to all the commenters as well. Make sure you guys go check out the Big Play store, the dopest Cleveland merch in the game. There's going to be tailgates this year. There's going to be watch parties this year. Brown season, Buckeye season, any football, college football, baseball, basketball, you got to swing by store.bigplay.com. But while you're there, don't pay full price. Who pays full price? You don't even have to present a coupon. You just type my last name, Pedone. That's my last name, Pedone, at checkout. You're going to save 15%. Who would not do that? Store.bigplay.com. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out. My name is Nick Pedone. Stay safe. Have some fun. Do so safely. Love you guys so much. Mean the world to me. See you next week.